Welcome, Dr. Rajiv.
Great.
Good morning, all of you, and thank you, Colonel Gopal, for the introduction. I'll be happy to take questions as it comes.
Super. Obviously, Dhaval, everybody often wonders what is this colonel from the army doing in education. I'm also often perplexed by it, but it looked like a natural calling, and I have been extremely privileged to have spent 27 years in the army. You had 4 years of National Defense Academy and the Indian Military Academy. That's actually 31 years in uniform. A huge privilege to have served the places I did, which includes many years in Kashmir, a year in a UN mission in Kuwait, United Nations mission between the two countries at that point of time, 91, 92. And also what I call a life-changing time on the Siachen Glacier, which is the highest post in the world.
Yes.
And so many ways when you go through tough times in your life, like many of us are feeling that pressure of where we are now, it always takes me back to the Siachen time. And since that was sort of a breeze, this doesn't look very difficult. We will go past it. So that's been my journey. My father was an extremely well-known professor of political science. He was, in fact, the first founder of the South Campus of Delhi University in the early 70s. He was in SOAS, where he went to research on his PhD. Books on India and World Affairs, 1947-53, are still sort of prescribed textbooks, I think, at the university level in many universities in India, especially Delhi University. So there was, I suppose, the fact that I grew up on campuses and then moved to cantonments. So there was always the pull to get back to campus life. And I actually live on the Shiv Nadar University campus. And if there is any place to ever get locked down for 30 days or more, I can tell you that there can't be a better place than to have a 300-acre campus to get locked down. And it looks like a fantastic place to be in. While we miss the students, there are only about 250 students on campus. But the birds are all over the place. We have animals everywhere. And we have a lot of exotic species visiting us on the campus. So that's in short, a nutshell, my life and my journey here.
And I think it's incredible. I've been to the campus at Shiv Nadar. It's beautiful, very well spaced out. You have a housing facility even for guests. Of course, I think that if I was a student who had to walk around, I think that would be incredible for me to move from one building to the other. I get a lot of exercise also. I think that that journey for a student, having a real campus, is something which I feel is incredible. So, maybe I think at this time when, when we all and the world is dealing with something that is extraordinary and unprecedented, how has Shiv Nadar also taken care of its students, moved maybe to an online infrastructure? I'm sure that has been quite a journey in itself.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey. I think all of us are fairly victims of our past and our experiences. So it's not the easiest transition for, I would say, professors or even students who have studied in a particular way to move into an online learning environment. Yesterday, while walking around in the evening, I always do this, ask students how their online experience has been. And while many normally give it a 6.5 on 10, yesterday one of the students said 8 on 10. So I asked him why. He said, because I just feel there's so much more attention when you move into an online mode. And I feel that there is a personal attention between the professor and me. And I find that concentration is better. So to each his own. I think the social aspect of going to a class together is an invaluable part of the real classroom experience. But I suppose in the way the learning happens, at Shiv Nadar University, actually, I would give a lot of credit to that, to Dr. Rajiv, who's right here with us. for them to realize early that this looks like a long haul, and we were towards the later part of our semester, and how the students had gone for a midterm break, and during that midterm break, how we transitioned with a huge help from the technology department, and how mainly we got a lot of professors to learn quickly. I think the quality of platforms helps a great deal. The quality of our bandwidth in our country, which, by the way, India gets less credit for. It's incredibly cheap and it's incredibly vast now. I suppose that has all contributed, along with, of course, the pedagogy of teaching. And I think this may be quite the right time for Dr. Rajiv, to come in and also explain further how we adopted and changed, and how where we are with the end of the semester and what all's happening. I suppose a few projects may struggle, which requires you to be here, but Rajiv will probably talk a little bit. Rajiv, over to you. You're on mute, Rajiv.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Colonel Gopal. I think you've covered pretty much everything. But one of the important part that Gopal talked about is that SNU didn't even lose a single day in this whole change that happened. The first day, when we were about to come from the midterm break, we started the online classes. We were the first university to transition to online class the moment we realized that this is a problem which is going to stay with us for some time. We immediately, trained our faculties, onboarded a couple of platforms which we already had, and very, very easily we migrated to the online platform. I must congratulate all faculties of SNU, the IT team, the leadership of SNU, which actually helped in this transition. So, and I would also like to add that, we partnered with Coursera last year, and that experience also helped us to transition very quickly.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So how many students right now, as you were mentioning, are on campus? And, because you're actually one of the few campuses that also have housed the students, haven't asked them to leave completely. I think, which is another, I think a lot of campuses haven't really done that. So how many students do you have on campus at this point?
Yeah, so we have 250 students on campus, approximately about 2,000 students off campus now.
Yes.
The students who are on campus, predominantly we have nearly about 100 PhD students on campus. Some research work continued in the initial period of lockdown, because we also felt the quality of research which was happening. There were virologists who were researching, and we have an incredible research center, which I would say is maybe second only to places like the Indian Institute of Science or maybe IIT Bombay. But this is much more than just a technology university. But the quality of research and the quality of facilities, so the PhD students at that point have stayed back. Then other students who are from faraway places felt it was better. They didn't go away for midterm. They didn't want to go back after the initial announcement. And we felt that if they're safer here, they're happier here. We also have students from economically less privileged backgrounds who are on scholarships. And that adds to the diversity of the students' profile that we have. They may not have the same access to the internet in the villages that they are from. We have a few students from abroad, so they're all part of the students who are here, and they're sort of at least enjoying space.
That's great. And that brings me to the question that what does Shiv Nadar look for in students? So what type of students does Shiv Nadar really want to have on their campus?
So one, I suppose, is the sort of students we'd ideally want, if that was a sort of a choice that we were making. And second is the process which allows us to select those students, right? So obviously the students we are looking for are students who see the value of range. Typically Indian university or higher education talks about depth, which means you choose a domain after school and then you become a computer scientist or a chemical engineer or a historian or whatever you choose, and that's the depth of the program. But the fundamental difference probably is that because we have 4 schools, because we are a 4-year program, because every student who chooses a major has an opportunity to choose a minor in a domain which would be completely different from the major, that is the type of students we would be looking for, in terms of understanding that I am more than this one-dimensional being when it comes to education, and I'd like to explore a huge range of things. For example, I met a particular student a few months ago. I asked him, why did you choose Shiv Nadar? And he said, it was the only university which offered me mechanical engineering along with design. Yes. And he said, I was always interested in that. We have a particular teacher now in the Shiv Nadar school. She's a teacher who's an alumni of Shiv Nadar University. And yes, she graduated with an engineering degree at Shiv Nadar University. She had a minor in dance. And she's actually a dance teacher at Shiv Nadar University. I can't even call her a dance teacher because she's a lot more than a dance teacher. But she understands dance in many more hues than just a dance teacher, and she's enjoying what she's doing because of the opportunity that she had here. So there are students who understand that the future is about range and not just depth, who understand that it's not just one part of me, there are many parts of me, and you could therefore do maybe data science and economics, for example. And that makes the sort of combination of my interests to sort of flower. And those are the sort of students that we would ideally be looking for, who understand and desire this opportunity of the range of academic work. And Rajiv, would you like to add anything else? And we could briefly talk about the admission process which leads to that, but anything to add, Rajiv?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that comes to my mind when talking about the student intake is the meritocracy. Right from beginning, we were very clear that we want students to come in the SNU setup by merit, and that's the only way to come inside. Right? There's no other mechanism for a student to get inside SNU. That's first. Now, I'll just turn the question around, that what kind of students prefer SNU? Yes. And that is where the point that Gopal was mentioning, that let me give you an example, that there is a very famous electrical engineer whose name is Claude Shannon. You can just Google the name. He is the pioneer of communication. Today's information age is his gift. Okay, it's called as father of communication. And he basically said that it is the philosophy course that he took as a requirement at University of Michigan which shaped his thinking. And that is the kind of students who actually want to come to SNU, who are saying that, oh, I want to be a computer science engineer, but at the same time, I had an inherent interest in design. I had an inherent interest in economics. So is there any place in India which gives him this option? Perhaps there is none. So, SNU comes probably at the top of his mind when such kind of people think about taking admission in some place. So I would say students who are meritorious and who also want to explore various kinds of learning prefer SNU.
Absolutely. And
I always love to add the Steve Jobs story, which most people may know, that if it wasn't for the calligraphy course that he took, he said, Apple phones wouldn't be what they were. Right.
True.
So, just imagine the design element of an Apple phone, and without that, what would that phone be, right?
So there was a student in SNU who was doing undergraduate research, which is an essential component at SNU, who was working in mathematics, the role of mathematics in dance. She was trying to study the forms of dance and saying, how are the mathematical equations going to explain these forms, right? These are the kind of interesting things that students can do at SNU.
So I still remember my time when I was visiting and I spoke to 2 or 3 students on campus. And it was fascinating how an engineering student is also taking a minor in English or taking a minor in film. And I think that that's incredible to see that interdisciplinary, focus really come in. And, being able to really do something that you are passionate about or you discover while you're there, in that first year. And I think that really makes a transcending difference across. And what you rightly said is, as you move along in your, academic or, your careers, is if it could be in the industry, I think a lot of things that you learn across the emphasis of maybe your electives or humanities or your minors that you took, that helps you a lot to grow. Wouldn't you say that, Colonel Gopal?
Yeah, I think, for...
I mean, you were born in London. I mean, you've traveled so much around the world. There's so many aspects which I'm sure that, that this interdisciplinary coursework has really helped you understand as well, right, in terms of perspective.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that as we get older in life and something's happened to you, in spite of the exuberance of youth, something only happens to you with age. The young don't like to agree, but that's true. But it's just that when you look back on your life, and it was amazing to listen to one Harvard professor and the other an MIT professor, a Stanford professor, both on the HCL board, who come here for their quarterly HCL board meetings, but they also give us a day before to be part of our advisory council at Shiv Nadar University, and to listen to them and them to say exactly what you just asked, that it is so important to be interdisciplinary approach. And, they're all renowned professors in their domain, but they are talking about the depth of value that you get when you put in range into university education. And I've been fortunate simply because I was born to a particular father and mother. I was born in London. I also had some school education in Singapore. And my father was an eternal traveler, so he couldn't ever stay in one place. It was always traveling every 2-3 years to a new university. But also the army gives you the opportunity of traveling every 2 years. So I know India more than many people. Politicians won't agree, but I have been to every corner of this country. I understand rural India a lot more. But the point is that just the travel gives you a huge amount of perspective, right? And similarly, focusing only on one sort of domain in college life, and not having that perspective of many other things that you could do. And in a multidisciplinary university, I think the advantage is that when you have 4 or 5 different schools, you will have friends who will be in economics. Today morning, I was talking to Vidyagyan students, the students who come from this wonderful school called Vidyagyan in our foundation. And I was talking to 4 of them. 3 were in the School of Humanities. 1 was an engineering student. But they were just sharing experiences of, what they could do inside the campus. And we were looking at many projects. But the fact is they've got friends from across diverse areas. And when they work on projects within the university, which is student-led, they work in teams which is across schools, right? Because real-life projects are not confined to one discipline. Inevitably, you will need elements of economics and elements of design and elements of engineering and elements of sociology into implementing something, which is where the real world is. So I think that's the richness of experience that you can get. Yeah.
And you can see that because you have engineering, you have humanities and social sciences, you have the School of Natural Sciences, and then of course there's management and entrepreneurship. So the diversity of courses that you have at the undergraduate and then at the graduate level, I think that's truly incredible to see how you've. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about that, growth, that you've seen for SNU and the emphasis that you have on research. That's sort of going to help a lot of them understand also how Shiv Nadar University is, has grown over, and what their vision is, moving forward.
I'm wondering if we have that presentation, and maybe there's this slide on OUR, which is undergraduate research. If we could just put that up for you. Otherwise, Rajiv is again.
Rahul, do you have the slide? Do you want to put it up?
Yes, I do have it.
Yeah. So you can breeze through my initial photographs of army life. I think it's there, but we'll come straight to the credits and the OUR.
We would definitely want to see you in Kashmir.
Yeah, it's probably there right at the beginning.
And thanks for your service to the nation. I think it's very valuable for us.
I think we must have huge amount of gratitude for the people in whites right now, because they're the ones who are really doing amazing service to the nation. And it's not right now the people in olive green, but it's the people in whites, and they're doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
Rahul, are you getting the presentation, or
do you have the slide open, Rahul?
Oh, it doesn't. Okay. Rajiv, you're on mute. Maybe you could just talk us through that.
Yeah. That would be great.
Let him pull up the PPT. Let me start speaking about what you said. So, as Gopal mentioned, I think right from beginning, one of the things which was very clear to SNU that it's not just the depth, but the breadth. Both are important. So we sort of started what is called as T-shaped education, where the depth and breadth both are taking consideration while our teaching goes on. Now, so when we prepared the curriculum, we right from beginning started a fully residential university, because then 8 hours was not enough to the kind of learning that we wanted.
Not able to see the screen.
Maybe in the presentation it's covered more in the video, because maybe it isn't in this particular presentation, but maybe we could show the video if that works, Rahul, towards the later part, and that will be well covered because it's coming from students, if that can be covered later.
Yeah.
And we'll let Professor Rajiv talk about it.
Yes. So, the curriculum was designed in such a way that there are three aspects to it. One was the major courses.
Yes.
The other one is something called as CCC, which is Core Common Curriculum, which has history, critical thinking, environment, society, various heads. So 8 major heads are there in CCC. Now, whether you're a student of history, whether you're a student of computer science, whether you're a student of physics, everybody has to do those CCCs. That's one. So it's a character that every student of SNU will display. That is
it's like a foundation. It's a foundation.
Yes, foundation. Absolutely. Then we have something called as UWE, which is university-wide electives. Now, these are the courses. Let me give you a simple example. So suppose I'm a student of computer science. Now, in front of me, I have courses of computer science which I have to do. Apart from CCCs, which is apart from computer science, there is another bucket that I've kept. I've kept 6 buckets in front of you, and each bucket has courses. Let's say one bucket has courses from design, one bucket has courses from history, one bucket has courses from international relations, one has dance, one has music, and one has, let's say, filmmaking. Now, you have the option of picking one course from each bucket and enjoy. That's one. So you'll get, again, a range that Gopal was talking about. The other option is that you can pick up all 6 courses from only one bucket. Let's say you pick up all 6 courses from design. If you do that, you can get a minor in design. Okay. So if you pick up all 6 courses from, let's say, filmmaking, then you can get a minor in filmmaking. So that is a minor concept, right? Not mandatory. People can explore 6 courses from 6 majors and get a range, or get a range of things from one particular major. So, it gives you an option of major along with a minor. It helps you in 2 ways. One, it satisfies your inner urge of doing something else. Second, it also helps in employability, right? It also helps adaptability in the future, because nobody knows the future, right? So that way, these extra things that we do, and we do it very seriously. You see,
Yes.
you see at a lot of places that they focus only on the major courses, and other courses that are like run through. In our place, we are very, very focused. We have dedicated faculty for each of those courses, and we take it very seriously. Okay. So, let me also add OUR, which is opportunities for undergraduate research. starting the beginning of second year, which is the beginning of third semester, all students are given the option of choosing a research project with any faculty from the university. So a student from, let's say, economics can choose me, who is working with computer science, and say, I want to do a project with economics and computer science together, right? He can come to me with the project idea. I'll have to vet through it, and then I say, okay, I'll guide you. So, a student has the entire faculty base of SNU to go and talk to, and they take up very interesting projects, and they get 1 year time to do that. This is beyond curriculum, by the way. Okay, and and also the university funds up to let's say 25,000 rupees for the projects, apart from funding, let's say, the publications, if at all it comes out. And there are students of undergraduate, second year and third year who have published papers in international journals and conferences through these opportunities for undergraduate research.
So can you share maybe some examples of the research which might have recently been accomplished by some of the students? I think that'd be interesting to listen to as well.
Okay, so I told you about one of the interesting project which a student did 2 years back, which was mathematics and dance together. There was a student who worked with me on the cancer modeling. Okay, so he basically also has published a paper. You can see that I can send you a link of the paper. He's a student of undergraduate student, and publishing paper in a very reputed journal is possibly a dream for many, even for master's student, I would say. Okay, so working on a cancer modeling, there are students who are working right now on COVID. Okay, with working with faculties, even online, they have started working on COVID issue, and they're trying to work out some way to measure, let's say, the possibility of assessments, or let's say vaccine, and so on. So there are many interesting examples of students who have come out with interesting ideas. One computer science student last year worked with a chemistry professor and worked on a particular drug, and he's created computational models for those drugs.
Right. So this definitely gives me a very good idea of why engineering is so popular at Shiv Nadar. And so what kind of an engineer do you see in the making when you have engineers graduate? How many of them probably move towards academia versus how many of them want to go to the industry?
Okay, so 30% of our students, they move to higher studies. Okay, and higher studies can range between, let's say, MBA or a master's or a PhD. Okay, sure. Now there are several examples of students of SNU who have actually bagged direct admission in PhD program after the undergraduate degree, which is rare. All of you know that getting a PhD admission in top university in US directly after BTech is a rare option for many. And in the first batch that we produced, the batch of 11 to 15, one of our students actually got through a direct PhD program in an Ivy League university, and all funded. Just now, probably 15 days back, one of my students, the same student that I was talking about, who was working on cancer modeling, got through Edinburgh University, fully funded, master's plus PhD program, and that is because of the kind of education that we give. The point that Gopal was making, that the range is so important, the depth and the range both is taken into consideration at SNU, and that has been yielding phenomenal results. Now, apart from this, our placement is phenomenal. If you look at the placement record of our students, that is outstanding. So, they are doing well in the industry, as well as they are choosing higher educational institutions for a higher degree.
So that was going to be my next question. And Colonel Gopal, you can also share your perspective on it. Is what are the opportunities that students get year-round, to get themselves prepared either for industry or academia? And I think that actually solidifies their education journey. Maybe Rajiv, in the meantime, you can share with us also just year round. How does how do you prepare students in the industry?
So we have a very able director of Career Development Center, and she organizes a lot of industry talks at SNU. Apart from that, we organize industry visits. Yes, so he's
Back.
great.
Okay, sorry. Can I? So both Rajiv and I could probably answer that, but I think the major focus for us has been that our so-called placement cells that we normally use that word in the universities, we call it the career development cell, right? So
Absolutely.
the idea, it's a very large team of 20 people, right? And there is a training component within that cell, right? But their job is basically to interface with the university, find out what are the industry needs across India, plow that back into the university, into also the education system of the university, and
Right.
then be able to work with them towards getting them university candidates from the Shiv Nadar University who will be valuable to them in their respective industry, right?
Sure.
So it's an ongoing year-long process which starts actually from the second year of the student's life on campus. So keeping the first year aside, second, third, fourth year, this department CDC stays the course with the students, tries to figure their aptitude, their interests, but also works closely with the industry across India to make sure that we have people who are industry ready. And that's why it's like a year-long process. And there's a fair degree of training, which is sort of a top-up training to what may not be happening within the school curriculum, or college curriculum, and that is also taken care of, and also then help them with the projects with the industry in their fourth year. So that's broadly the range of things that they do.
So how many internships typically you think students across these 4 years might be taking on? Would they be typically in the second or third year if they're not working on some research project?
Rajiv, would you have the percentage? But I think it's
I think almost all
Or even
students,
understanding?
all the students.
almost all students do at least one internship,
Fantastic.
which is an industry. There are students who go to other educational institutions, two students from computer science right now. One is in US, one is in Singapore. The person who is in US is working with Harvard Medical School, right? He's interning with Harvard Medical School. So there are students who go to other institutions. There are students who go to other industries. So one is minimum, and then there are students who do 2 to 3 as well.
Incredible. And if you can talk a little bit about...
I think the SME has 2 mandatory type of internships, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We have a social entrepreneurs segment of it also.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you can at least, maybe talk about how is campus life? How is life for students on campus? Because it's such an incredibly vast campus. And how do students make the best of that? I mean, there's so much to do.
I think for the counselors who are on this program, maybe you should definitely look at the video which we would have shared. It's a 7-minute video. Students are speaking about their own life in the university, which includes campus life. But I think the richness of the Shiv Nadar University is actually campus life. It's about what starts after 5 or 6 o'clock. I think that's the most impressionable age for 17 to 23. Notwithstanding that we have a very eminent professor of ours on the show, I think the real strength of what happens in the university is always what happens both in the clubs and societies, which is very student-led, also in the festivals, also in the sport, but I suppose also to a great extent about the people they meet and the interface with the students from diverse parts of India and abroad. I think that's the strength of a university where you're living on the campus. My personal story here is that both my children went to St. Stephen's. 10 years ago, very renowned, both actually captained the college basketball team, which is their big medal that they wear. But having said that, it's a small campus, one. Secondly, to live inside the campus, you have to be somebody not from Delhi. You won't get to live, otherwise it's not meant for you. So you travel in a bus or a metro and you reach there. Sure, you have your tea in the famous tea shop, they call it something, not the tea shop in Hindu, you know, the Stephens always say something else. But having said that, there is no richness of a campus life, right? And I think in today's world, especially with the issues of safety, you know, if I was a parent, I would probably just clearly choose a Shiv Nadar University type of a campus for my children, than to really, you know, let them commute and really commute back. And there isn't really the feel of a campus. So the campus life is very rich here. And maybe the video is the answer to really get you to see that.
And maybe, you know, Colonel Gopal, you could talk to us about also the faculty. How do you choose your faculty for each of the schools? And, you know, because it seems to be that they have an incredible mix of accomplished and passionate faculty.
Yeah, I think we do take great pride in the fact that you name a university of eminence anywhere in the world or in India, from Harvard to Oxford to NUS to the IITs and the IIMs. We've got faculty from everywhere on campus. So I think it speaks also for the university that we're able to attract that type of faculty who like to be in a foundation such as this, started by somebody like Mr. Nadar, and they see credit and merit in being part of the university. We are still very much a growing university. We are a IOE, as many of you may know. IOE means we're an Institute of Eminence, and there are only 10 private universities. We are the youngest in that 10, which has obviously from the Indian Institute of Science to IITs to BITS Pilani, and we are one of them. But I think the faculty do recognize the value of being here, so we are able to attract that. And also we make it as valuable for them to find this an attractive place to be. And I think the strength is fundamentally quality of students and the opportunity for research, which sort of attracts faculty to be here. And would you like faculty to explain that even better? Then Rajiv will explain it even better.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that you know, having faculty, you know, those who are very passionate, I think makes a lot of difference in a student's life. I mean, I personally think that even when I was working on my economic thesis, having a professor who really is able to invest the time, you know, has the, you know, the faculty hours post class where you can go in the program and speak to them, you know, send out emails to them, and you know, have communication, you know, which is digital. It doesn't mean that you have to be there at all times. Those things helped a lot, and I assume that that's also the case at Shiv Nadar University.
Yes, Rajiv?
Yeah, so let me say 3 factors which is very essential to attract a faculty. You know, one of the first factor is quality students. Okay. The second factor is the availability of research infrastructure. And the third factor is the kind of respect and the kind of place that they get to stay, to, you know, sit in the office and so on. So, you know, on all 3 parameters, SNU has been very meticulous. The kind of funding that we have done for research, you know, the kind of funding that we do, you travel to present the papers, you know, the research lab that we have invested in, and the kind of students that we attract. I mean, this is the perfect recipe to attract the best of faculty. And on top of it, you know, we do a lot of reach out to best international universities to, you know, call faculties, to give seminars. We go there ourselves. I mean, recently our director visited a couple of institutions in the country, in the US, to talk to various prospective faculties, right? So I think we are doing all our best that we can do to attract the best faculties. It's very difficult for private institution to spend the amount of money, the kind of money that we spend on research. That's not an easy task.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
It's a very, very expensive proposition. And we have done to that in an incredible way.
No, absolutely. And, I think that I'm sure that was some of the things which are going to be important as we move towards, through this COVID-19 crisis is also going to be a lot of the work that students do towards this research. I'm sure that a lot of research will start focusing towards that as well. Do you see that happening at Shiv Nadar?
Yeah, so interesting and coincidental that you talk about this. Yesterday, we had actually a late night call with the school director of the School of Humanities, Dr. Dandekar.
Yeah.
And we talked at length and we went all over the world, I think, in our conversation about how COVID will change, or post-COVID life will change the world. And actually, interestingly, there is an engineering element to, education as well as an outlook on the world. And there is a humanities outlook on the world. And it's so interesting, and the range is just incredible, because they would be looking at the challenges of migration, the challenges the economies of the world are going to face in the next 3 to 5 years. And the way a lot of things around that is going to change, right? So there is sociology here, there's obviously psychology here through what will happen, but there is also deep understanding of economics and development economics, particularly. So, all those areas is where also the student can be charged about discussing the new world and, saying that what are the new type of projects that we can work on. And there are many things we already thinking. We have Dr. Meher Shah, who's one of probably India's foremost expert on water management. He's a visiting faculty, and it's we have a water science department. What do we call it? CPAT center. And there's so much of that type of work which may get increasingly relevant with this new world that we're going to face. So all those are sort of opportunities both for faculty as well as for students to really engage in and finding answers to the sort of challenges that we will have now in the next few years, right?
I think that's incredible. And at this time, if you want, what I would do is, you have sent the video. I could play the video and I could be the presenter and let everyone sort of see that short video, because I think after the discussion that we've had, which has been, I think maybe if everyone gets to see the campus, which I have felt, and this is exactly what I felt when I came to campus, is there's incredible energy in the way that it's been constructed with the student life. I think I was fascinated by it when I was on campus. So let me play the video. Let me just...
we did not mention that because we are a very well-funded foundation.
Yes.
The fees at the Shiv Nadar University, it's like one massive scholarship actually, as compared to...
I was actually going to ask you, that was going to be my next question, that,
we'll happy to share that. It's also on the website, and counselors over here must have a look at it.
Yes.
In this uncertain world, it's also worth looking at, what it costs to get an education at the Shiv Nadar University.
Absolutely. I think that it's remarkable to see that, given the depth of, the subject matter, given the depth of the faculty, I think that, the fees and the scholarship structure is so generous. It's, and I think it's extremely attractive. So my other question was, how do you achieve that equality of student body in your campus? Because I'm sure that you have, a lot of talent that you will attract. But then it has to be equal across all platforms, or, I would say across all kinds of student types. So,
as Rajiv said, our fundamental criteria is merit.
Yes.
But we also have a criteria which is means cum merit. So, for example, the Vidyagan students, just because they happen to be from the foundation, they don't necessarily qualify. I mean, all of them qualify on means, but they need to qualify also on merit. So they get 100% scholarship. They pay not a rupee, neither for tuition, nor for hostel, nor for anything, right? But because they come from incredibly less privileged section. So 20% of the entire tuition is for less privileged section. So there is one whole group there. And also we attract people from across India, so there is diversity from there. But there is no other criteria except merit to get into Shiv Nadar University.
Lovely.
And this year we are doing sports scholarships. So if the counselors do know outstanding young people who are playing sport for India or for their states, they could apply on the sports scholarship scheme that we have this year.
Great. And maybe, you know, after this video, if the admissions department can also talk about the requirements, because I'm sure that with COVID-19, there's a lot of questions in how those requirements are going to play in terms of the admission process, and maybe an update of that sort would also be helpful to the counselors in the audience as well.
Sure.
So at this point, if you can see my screen, I'm just going to play the video. Can you hear it?
You take concepts and models from physics and you apply them in economics, in biology, even in sociology, because you make map of population using the principles of physics again.
All of this put together helps add to my credentials, and it also gives me like an all-round view of different subjects, and I don't really feel left out when people are talking about some particular topics. It's more like, oh, you're talking about technology, hey, you're talking about English literature. So I always have something to contribute to, which I think is a brilliant thing, because you always have something to come up with the discussions.
What I was working on last year for my OER project, Options for Undergraduate Research, was this process called torrefaction, where we try and convert our food waste from the dining hall into something that can be used to produce energy. Even one publication written in my resume or cover letter will give me an edge over others, because this is something that people tend not to do in a bachelor's degree, maybe because they are not given enough opportunities.
So when I first saw my faculty number, which is in my department, I was very, very impressed, because all of them were very well educated in their field, and the way they talk was very engaging. I was just like, I want to be like them.
It's not about a teacher and a student relationship. It's more of a facilitator and a student relationship. So the teachers, the faculty, even the vice chancellor, the doors will always be open for you. You come up to them with any kind of problem, even personal problems for that matter, and they will help you out.
What the university tries to do is they want to make this job ready, not just in the theoretical aspect. They want us to develop our personalities holistically.
Okay, this does definitely remind me of
space
my
as well. And we have seen over the past recent years, thanks to IRDAI, the emergence of insurtech startups actually proliferating over time. In fact, a number of them have actually launched a COVID insurance scheme a COVID insurance plan with in consultation with the insurance companies also. So how do you believe that the role fintech is going to play in the healthcare space, and how will that affect your over time?
So that was incredible. I think the video, it brought some great memories for me being on campus at my university. And I think that's incredible. I think that Shiv Nadar has grown so much under your leadership, Colonel Gopal. So I would love it if you are able to, maybe summarize for the counselors and for the students before we take some more questions also about the vision for Shiv Nadar University going forward.
I think the growth of the Shiv Nadar University should be attributed to everybody who's been here from the very beginning, and somebody like Professor Rajiv has been here since 2011. I am actually a recent entry. I've only been here now like 8-9 months. So my imprint is very minimal, but I do enjoy being here and spending time with students. I live on the campus, which is a huge plus. So I think obviously the contribution to what Shiv Nadar University is to a large extent is attributable to the two vice chancellors, Dr. Nikhil Sinha, who was our founder vice chancellor, and Dr. Rupamanjri Ghosh, who's currently the vice chancellor, and the very fine faculty and support staff that we have. So I suppose that's, and of course the students themselves who contribute so much to what makes a great university. But we're very excited about the second decade for us. The Institute of Eminence has been a huge motivating factor in this. We are, as I said, the youngest university to be given that honor and the privilege by the Government of India. It is big shoes to fill. So there's a lot to be done in that area. Also, I suppose the new schools that we will build and the new programs that we will put in place, from a design school to a very big missing psychology department. I think there are many areas like that we need to do. I think on the management school, we have lots of really good news. We have a new director who's joining, who's from IIM Ahmedabad. He was a founder director of IMT Ghaziabad. He's currently at Ahmedabad University, and Dr. Bibek Banerjee is now joining another 15 days from now as the director of the School of Management. And the undergrad management program at SNU, along with the MBA program, is also shaping up extremely well. So they're very interesting times ahead for us. Right?
Lovely. That's great. Thank you so much for
sharing my bit on the sports field.
Oh, absolutely. I think that, I saw the sports complex as well. And I think you all have some incredible number of tennis courts and basketball. And I think that I'm sure that the student life as far as sports is concerned is also very active.
Yeah, we have a very active sports complex. We have actually about 800 students out in the sports field every single day. It's incredible to see the evening. One is the facility, second is the quality of coaches, and then the sheer energy of what the students do with having competitions and having IPL type of teams that they have sort of put together. So I think that it's a very active sports life for those who enjoy it. It's a huge campus to be able to do many things. There are people currently who are cycling 100 kilometers inside the campus, which means they do about like 3-4 hours of cycling inside, but it allows you to do all these things.
Wow. And
there's some questions coming in.
Yeah, we do. I could see that we've mentioned what are the subjects offered. Rajiv, would you want to take that question also? And they've asked for what is the fee structure of the undergraduate management program? That's one of the other questions.
So while we'll share the presentation with the fees, it's also on the website. But since I have the undergrad management program, so I'll just read the. There are two important aspects. I see a lot of counselors here and some parents, but I think two important aspects obviously are the nature of programs, other than many things that you've heard. The fee structure, of course, and the admission process. So let me start with the fact that our admission process is absolutely designed now to meet with the current situation, which is broadly that we can't be waiting for the 12th class results since exams haven't been completed.
Yes.
For parents and students to make a call and to get away from the uncertainty of the college that they choose between going abroad and going to many other sort of colleges. So we've designed the admission process differently this year. We are not waiting for the 12th class results. We have a separate sort of admission process for the School of Engineering and a separate one for the other schools. For the School of Engineering, your AIEEE scores matter. Broadly, the JEE 80 percentile and above, you can apply, right? Based on the total number of students who have applied, there's a filter, and then that's how we will consider. We are looking at SAT scores of 1300 or more with a math score of 700 for the School of Engineering.
Okay.
Then there is a proctored test, which is the SNUSAT+APT test, which will be done self-proctored by Pearson, and that will kick in this week. So that will constitute how we select our students for the School of Engineering. For the rest of the schools, especially for the School of Humanities, we are looking at, for history or IR, we're looking at 30 to 40 students. So we're probably going to go into a process where we look at 10th class results, look at any other exams that they may have done outside the school, look at the 11th class results and the predicted scores which the counselors will then send or the schools will send us. Based on that, we'll do one-on-one interviews and offer admissions. And this is what we would probably also be doing in the other two schools. So that's as far as the admission process is concerned. It's also available on the website. You asked about fees for the BMS program. The 4-year program, the fee is only 4 lakhs. Is the tuition fee. 4 lakhs is the tuition fee for a 4-year BMS program at SNU.
As I said, again, that's incredible because at many institutions, that is the 1-year fee. So,
yes.
So yes. I think this is incredible. I think any other questions that, many of them have, do we have computer science, English, is one of the other questions, which is...
It is the combination, Rajiv, yes. Computer science and English as a combination. Yes.
Yes.
So, yes. Yeah.
So I think broadly what we need to tell the students also is the fact that you have the foundational level courses. It's sort of how, the US has it broken up, where you have 40% of your classes are from your major, and then you have humanities having 30%, and then you have 30% of classes which be your electives. So Rajiv, do I have that right?
So let me just give you the exact numbers.
Structure like that, yeah. So maybe if you can give numbers, that'll be great.
Let me give you the exact numbers. So any student of engineering will have to complete 160 credits.
Fantastic.
Out of that 160 credits, he will have to do 42 credits, which is 25% from outside.
Okay.
Okay. So the rest 120 credit is from his major, and that also includes internship and projects.
Got it.
And also the other school, the School of Natural Science 4-year program is 2 lakhs because we just want top quality students. So that's why it costs as little as that, but we won't compromise on the quality of students. The School of Engineering, the 4-year program costs 6 lakhs.
Yes.
Great. I think, Rajiv, as you were completing this part about the credits, so it's 160 credits, 42 from outside. What about the other credits?
Yeah, the total number of credits is 160, and then it's broken in 2 parts. Let's say your major, that will be roughly 120, and then 42 is outside your major. Now, within that 42, you have to complete minimum 18 from CC, 18 from UWE, and overall you need to satisfy 42. Okay. Now, the apart from the 42, roughly 120 credits is your major courses plus internship plus projects.
Okay, fantastic. That does clear it out. Thank you for that. Any other questions that students has, that you'll want to ask at this point in time? Because we are almost done with our, as far as the time's concerned. But
yeah, I saw a question about whether you can transfer after the second year at SNU to a US university.
Yes.
If the US university accepts that, yes. Whether we have a one-on-one tie-up with a particular university, no.
And if I can answer that part of it, many universities, and especially considering, the university, you can take a transfer, but I'm sure that the experience that you would have at SNU will want you to stay back. Is what I would feel is continuation is always good, but yes, you can stay. Many universities would accept a 1 year at SNU, and then you can transfer to the universities.
Yeah. Rituja, you're obviously from far away from where we are. So we are at very close to Delhi. It's called Noida and just close to Greater Noida. So that's where we are.
Answered a couple of questions, yes.
I think we have sort of answered most of the questions.
Great. Thank you so much. I think this has been a lovely last 1 hour. It's been a pleasure interacting with you, Col.Gopal Karunakaran and Mr. Rajiv. It's been a real pleasure. I think we've learned a lot about Shiv Nadar University. Personally, I feel really honored to have come to the university, experienced the culture, the mix of students, and I look forward to having more of these webinars for students.
Thank you very much, Dhaval and team, and all of you who've been on the webinar. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. You can always contact our admission team directly for any queries that you may have.
Yeah, and maybe if you all want to just type in the admissions person or their email ID also on the chat, I think it'll kind of reach everyone. That'll be lovely.
Thank you so much, Col.Gopal, as well as Dhaval. This was phenomenal. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure really knowing more about the university. And thank you so much. And the video was very informational, I must say.
Thank you, Dhaval. Bye-bye. Good day. Have a nice day.
Thank you.